Alright, Ronan, MMA, welcome back to the channel. Now, before all the UFC 290 content starts, I did want to briefly recap and react to UFC Fight Night, Sean Strickland versus Abus Magomedov. I will not cover every single fight. I've only got 4 fights that I actually want to talk about, and I'm going to keep it brief because I do want to get into the UFC 290 stuff. So, before we get into it, like and sub, greatly appreciate it. First thing I wanted to talk about was Kevin Lee getting absolutely destroyed in 55 seconds by Rinat Fakhretdinov. Great performance by Rinat Fakhretdinov. Kevin Lee, man, it's kind of sad, but at the same time, you can't be taking a bunch of time off in like your prime years and expect to come back and do well against high level competition. I didn't see many people picking Kevin Lee to win because, I mean, geez, his last fight barely made it through a decision with a 40-year-old Diego Sanchez who, before he left the UFC, looked like absolute garbage, okay? So that's not very good to be going the distance with a guy like that when you, at one point in time, were fighting for an interim title against Tony Ferguson at the peak of his career. Also, Kevin Lee's striking game, it's strange because if you were to look at them based on pure striking, you might actually think that Kevin Lee was better, but he's got so many problems with his defense that it just when he backs up, and there's a lot of girls that do this, girl fighters, and there's also some guys, but you see it more with the girls. When they back up, they kind of like raise their arms as if they're like jumping out of the way of something. It's really strange. And Kevin Lee does this, and when he got hit with that big right hand, his left hand, his lead hand, was straight up in the air, which there's no need to be doing that. If you're backing up, you should still have your hands blocking your face, because if that guy just takes one big step forward, like, you're within reach once more. And that's exactly what happened. Rinat Fakhretdinov cracked him. If you look at the exact time that punch landed, Kevin Lee's arm was like this, as if that's going to help you in any which way, shape, or form when you got a guy throwing a big right hand at you. That guillotine choke, goddamn, Kevin Lee seems to have a real problem with those, K. At least he didn't try to fight the referee or continue on, which he didn't tap, so there was no argument there. He went completely out cold. And man, it's shitty for Kevin Lee, but at the same time, dude, whatever. You gotta I do think that at one point in time he appeared to have so much potential, and people thought that he might be champion one day because he was fighting at the perfect time for a guy like him. He's not quite a new generation because he is younger than Rinat Fakhretdinov, right? Keep in mind, he's not fighting at a new generational style or anything like that, but he was a younger version of the older guys that he was fighting. So it's kind of like he came in between generations, so he didn't quite have to fight the new up and coming guys that are good at fucking everything, right? He was still fighting the older guys and looking dominant against a lot of them. And then you really start to see him fall off after the Tony Ferguson fight, my bad. And yeah, I just think that, nowadays the sport has passed you by regardless of your age. And, he hasn't adjusted. He hasn't been working on his game. And I know that he was kind of plagued with injuries and shit like that, but man, unfortunate for Kevin Lee. Incredible performance. Pardon me, for Rinat Fakhretdinov. That was a great finish. 55 seconds. Jesus Christ, dude. Anyways, beautiful stuff. Moving on. Benoit Saint Denis. Jesus Christ. A plus 240. Coming in there against Ismail Bonfim. Ismail Bonfim had a ton of hype on him, as does his brother, and for good reason, too. They're not, like, just hype trains. I mean, that KO of Terrence McKinney was fucking incredible. Something that I've noticed something that I noticed when watching this fight was, you see guys will have tells for their offense, right? Oftentimes. And then Ismail Bonfim had tells for his defense and his durability, which I thought was really strange. So when you've got a guy consistently kicking you to the same place over and over again, right? Like Benoit Saint Denis was, you knew those kicks were coming. They were too explosive. He just couldn't seem to block them or get out of the way of them. All to the liver. And you've got a guy in Ismail Bonfim who's constantly going like this, like egging him on, like, yeah, hit me there, hit me there. Once he stops doing that, you know that they're bugging him, right? Because after like 3 or 4, and they were hard kicks, I thought, holy shit, how is he not curled up like a little bitch? He kept smacking himself. Hit me more, hit me more. Eventually that stopped. Okay, and when those stop, when you stop egging him on, it's hurting him. And then Benoit Saint Denis started going to the head, started mixing it up, going back to the body, back to the head. Beautiful stuff, man. And then submitted him on the ground. That choke didn't even really look like it was fully in or under the chin, so he must have a hell of a fucking squeeze. Or maybe I'm misremembering, but you can't, the commentators always say, oh, when guys do that, when they egg you on after you land a good shot, it means it hurt. I don't think it necessarily does all the time, but in this case, I feel like it was the opposite, right? Once he stops doing that, you're like, okay, that one hurt you, and that's why you're not fucking excited egging me on anymore, telling me to hit you there. And now I'm gonna keep going, and I know that you're fucking almost done. Incredible performance. I really want to see this guy fighting up in the rankings. You know what I mean? That was fuck plus 240. Ismail Bonfim had so much hype on him, and again for good reason. The dude's good. To go out there and do what he did against him, that's a fucking statement. And man, I can't wait to see him fight again. Incredible. We're gonna move on now to Grant Dawson. Looked incredible, dude, against Damir Ismagulov, who I hold in extremely high regard. I know that Arman Tsarukyan kind of showed us that he could be out-grappled and controlled. But at the same time, Arman Tsarukyan, is a guy that kind of went toe-to-toe with Islam Makhachev. So you don't expect a guy like Grant Dawson to do what he did and just completely 100% dominate Damir Ismagulov. I can't believe that the judges only scored him one 10-8 round, right? He got two 30-26 scorecards and one 30-27. I think you could argue 30-25 could have been an easy, totally justifiable scorecard. Man, I was upset because I really do like Damir Ismagulov. And he seemed to, it seems like he's gotten his tick under control, kind of. Do you know what I mean? And I thought, oh wow, man, he's still going like blinking and shit like that every once in a while, but before it was like really intense. And I just think how hard that would be to fight like that. And, him kind of getting that semi under control. I thought we were going to see an even better Damir Ismagulov, but we did not get that chance because Grant Dawson just completely fucking dominated him. And I don't even care that he didn't get the finish. I think it was just as impressive to do what he did. Some of those transitions were fucking beautiful, dude. The back take from the takedowns were looking as smooth as like Mighty Mouse transitions. You know what I mean? It was really, really good shit. And Damir Ismagulov was ranked number 12, so Grant Dawson's going to be in the top 15 now. Close to the top 10, or at least he should be. And I would be really interested to see him moving forward. He's a young guy. He's kind of coming into his own. And my God, that was a fucking great performance. Now let's move on to the main event. I'm going to keep this brief here, guys. I want to get to the 290 shit, my guy. Sean Strickland, best boxer in the UFC, baby. Dude, unironically, okay? It might be a little bit of an overstatement, but his boxing is fucking phenomenal. And people do not give him enough credit, man. I still see people shitting on him in the Instagram comments. Oh, well, that guy wasn't fucking ready. He shouldn't have been here anyways, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, well, Sean Strickland was able to stay composed after getting fucking snake-eyed, okay, with dude's fucking fingers, right? Brutal eye poke. And also with the aggressiveness that the guy was coming out with. Sean was able to stay composed. And it's something that drives me fucking crazy. And I fucking hate it. And Bisping does it. Paul Felder does it. A lot of guys do it, dude. Okay. But those two are the worst by far. Bisping and Felder. Not every leg kick needs to be screamed about. Okay? They do that. Every single time somebody lands a leg kick, you hear these motherfuckers, oh, yeah, we get it, dude. They hurt. You know what I mean? They don't hurt that bad, though. I've been kicked in the leg plenty of times. I know that if you kick the right spot, you can dead the leg and fucking blah, 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 dude. They're not worth screaming over. They will scream over a leg kick that was semi-checked by Sean Strickland more than they will scream by Sean Strickland landing like a 4-punch combination on fucking Abus Magomedov. And it drives me nuts, dude. Because there were a bunch of times where it looked like Abus Magomedov landed a leg kick, but Sean Strickland was actually able to get his foot off of the ground. And what he does, it's a weird kind of check. as opposed to lifting the knee up to like hip turning your knee out, right? He was picking his leg up and his heel was going backwards, or his foot would go backwards, so like behind his ass. And oftentimes Magomedov would catch the kick on like the ankle bone or the heel, which is not comfortable, dude. You know what I mean? That's like, in my opinion, that's a check kick. You're not aiming for the fucking ankle bone. You're not aiming for the heel. Sean Strickland's checking these kicks, and one of them ended up being a replay in between rounds 1 and rounds 2. And the fucking commentators still, with it right in front of them in slow motion, acted like Abus Magomedov landed a very hard leg kick there. And it drove me fucking nuts. And I'm sick of them screaming about him, because they are not the most significant strike that exists. Do you know what I mean? It drives me nuts. Nuts. There's certain guys where I could understand you having that reaction for, right? Like Mowgli. That dude kicks hard as fuck, okay? But other guys, and Abus was putting quite a bit into it, but, you know, they do it for fucking everybody, and it just drives me crazy. Like, enough, okay? Enough. Stop screaming over leg kicks, okay? We get it. They hurt. It is what it is. And then Abus Magomedov showed us that he don't last long, and I could see him breathing heavy with like a minute and a half left in round number 1, and I thought, what the fuck, dude? You've been winning. You've been blasting him with body kicks. How are you tired right now? And then Sean Strickland comes out, pours it on with some beautiful boxing combinations. Something I want to note that I noticed about Sean Strickland's defense in regards to his boxing is much improved. You know what I mean? If he's got a punch, he'll still throw his lead hand up to deflect it, but he keeps his right hand close to his chin, and he always throws his arm up this way. So it's going to get deflected, and his chin is covered. He does not parry with the lead hand anymore. And, you know, he's been training with Alex Pereira, and I wonder if that's something that they worked on, because that's how Pereira was able to catch him with the left hook, right? Sean kept parrying with his lead hand. So then Pereira just he timed it and went around his right hand guard. So I wonder if that was something that they worked on, because he was doing the perfect parries. Okay, and if you've watched my channel before, you know that I love this shit. I can't stand when guys parry with their lead hand, and I can't stand when guys do big actions. I just hit my mic, dude. Sean Strickland was doing these little parries. It's all you need. You just want to deflect it. You don't want to overextend your arm and then you're fucking wide open. He was doing it perfectly. And then, you know, Lorisenko pointed this out, and I thought it was actually a pretty good point. And I haven't really heard anybody refer to Sean Strickland's style as this before. But she said it's like a modified Philly shell. And she's right. Do you know what I mean? It kind of is. He keeps his right hand really close, tucked to his chin all the time, when he's on the defense anyways. And his lead hand's usually low, but you can see that he's got his shoulder tucked into his chin. So it is kind of like a modified Philly shell. Good shit. I still see people talking shit, man. It was a good fucking performance. I don't care if you think that guy wasn't ready. If at worst that guy wasn't ready, Sean Strickland did exactly what you would hope that a crafty veteran who is at the top of the division would do, and dealt with him like a fucking G, and then gave the most patriotic speech of all fucking time in his post-fight interview. And thankfully I was able to watch it on Fight Pass, so I didn't get any of it bleeped out. I seen that in the comments too. Oh, you guys silenced him the whole fucking interview. You know, he was swearing quite a bit, but that is what it is, dude. It's fucking Sean Strickland. Incredible performance with the eye. And we've seen now, I don't know if any of you follow him on Instagram, but I do. He's been posting pictures of it, and that thing got fucked. Okay, there's like a chunk out of his eye, and he continued on. As I fucking love Sean Strickland, man, and I also love watching people seethe about him do well, because it shouldn't be about your fucking political leaning whether or not you want to see a guy do well. If he's putting in the work and he's making improvements, he's humble enough to work with the guy that fucking starched him. Do you know what I mean? And then you see him make improvements and do better and have a phenomenal performance like we just saw. I think any mixed martial artist fan should be happy to watch something like that. I would love to watch him fight Israel Adesanya. He's tough, man. And I know that he's got a very small chance of beating Izzy, because he's very one-dimensional. He doesn't throw leg kicks. He doesn't really address leg kicks to the extent that you would want him to if you were to see him fight a guy like Israel Adesanya, but the build-up would be phenomenal. He's tough as nails. He's not just going to quit. He's going to try and fight, right? It's not going to be like fucking Paulo Costa not doing anything. It's not going to be like Yoel Romero just trying to do nothing. You know, he would go for it. And at the very least, we would get a fun finish out of Izzy. But that was a hilarious call out, too. I want to fight the first ever Chinese champion. Now, he's not the first ever because I think Zhang Weili was champion before him. I could be wrong. Maybe my timeline's off, but regardless, dude. First ever male Chinese champion, at least. Great performance by Sean Strickland. Phenomenal boxing. I don't care what people say, dude. I've seen people, oh, he leaves his chin open, he does this and that. And he's always like, yeah, he doesn't have the benefit of having a fucking giant 16-ounce glove on, you fucks, like boxing nerds in the comments talking shit about his boxing. Relative to the UFC, his boxing is fucking good. Okay? Very good. And once he gets the guy hurt and he's pouring it on, his combinations are clean. And while he got tagged a couple times, when he's at range and they're playing like the mid-range game, his defense is on point. He's very hard to hit clean. He should have gotten the W against Jared Cannonier. I know he keeps talking about that also. You know, and he brought up a good point at the press conference. He said, you know, the corner was screaming, Jared's corner. Every time he would throw punches that looked like they landed, they would be like, oh, good shot, that landed, blah, blah, blah. Sean goes, guys, I've got the chin of a fucking woman. If that landed, I'd be out cold. And I don't know that he has the chin of a woman, right? But if Jared Cannonier hits almost anybody cleanly, lights out. So it's a good point to say that, you know, he wasn't actually hitting me clean ever. Maybe a couple times, right? But Sean Strickland, in my opinion, should have won that fight. His face just looked worse at the end of it because of his white, fair skin. You know what I mean? And it is what it is. But he's been on a fucking tear, man. And I love that he's humble enough to reach out to the guy that starched him and be like, will you help me get better? And then after the fact gives him credit and says, you know, at this level, it's about polish. And working with a guy like Alex Pereira, he really gets you polished up. And he tells you, oh, I see holes here and here. We got to fix that, blah, 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 blah. So, good shit. Coach Eric Nixick's a phenomenal fucking coach, man. It's really interesting to watch him deal with his different guys. Like, he's got a different style of cornering for every guy that he has. And that's a sign of a good coach, man. Very good coach. Anyways, dude, can't wait to get to the UFC 290 shit. I'll be putting out a video soon. Today, probably, hopefully. And like and sub, greatly appreciate it. I'll see you at the next one. Bye-bye.